Hello everyone, this is Kalpana. I'm working as an assistant professor in AIDS department. I'm from SNS College of Engineering. Today I'm going to present a topic on operating systems. The course name is Principles of Operating Systems. This is for second year AIDS department students. Moreover, this Principles of Operating Systems subject is a core subject. So regarding that, it tells about the concepts of operating system, the process, procedure, everything. Let's get into the topic. So next we'll see the definition of an operating systems. So an operating system is a program that manages our computer hardware, and it acts as an interface between the users and the computer hardware. These are all the examples of our operating system. Linux OS, Windows we are using, Mac, Android OS, Ubuntu, Chrome OS, so everything. So these are all the examples of your operating system. Okay, let's discuss this definition with an example with an diagrammatic representation. Just consider this diagram. So we have user, application program, operating system and hardware. Okay. So when I say this hardware, which means resources like CPU, memory and input-output devices like keyboard, mouse, printer, speakers, we use as input-output devices, monitors, everything. So that comes under hardware. Our memory management system, CPU, everything comes under hardware part. And for a while, just forget about this operating system. I'll explain what is the role of operating system. Then we can relate with this diagram. So users are nothing but here next is the application. So application we say, for example, applications program like compilers and any text editors. We have notepads and word processor like MS Word, so or else any PowerPoint or we say Excel, spreadsheets, whatever may be. You just consider as an application program. For simplicity, I take word processor, that is MS Word. Now just imagine a scenario. A user, here a user wants to uh, create a document with the help of a word processor. Okay, MS Word. For simplicity, I say MS Word. With the help of MS Word, a user wants to create a document, which means he needs to type something, and he needs to save that document in the memory. So this is the process he needs to carry out now. So for that, what the user needs to do, first he needs to load the MS Word to the memory, right? So what he needs to do, the user obviously needs to directly contact with the hardware. Okay, he needs to directly contact with the hardware, and he needs to instruct the hardware that I need to access Word, I need to access MS Word, so please kindly load it. For that user needs to write a code, or we say instruction, to load the particular application. In our case it is MS Word to the memory. For loading he needs to write a code uh, with the hardware, and then after loading he needs to type something. For typing he needs to again instruct the hardware that I am typing, just consider it. And to display the same thing in the monitor, whatever he or she types, it needs to display in the monitor, right? For displaying also, he needs to give a command. He needs to instruct the hardware to display it in the monitor. He needs to write the instruction. And also after typing all the necessary things, he needs to save the document in the memory. For saving the document also, the user needs to he needs to communicate with the hardware, and he needs to give the instruction that I am going to save it, please save it for me. Okay, so likewise, each and every time the user needs to communicate directly to the hardware. So in our case, just as of now, as I told you, just imagine there is no operating system. So the user needs to directly communicate with the hardware. Each and every time he needs to give instruction for loading that particular application, for doing any kind of process, for saving the process, for all sort of things, he needs to directly communicate with the hardware. So just imagine, just for just opening a simple word processor, typing and saving, he needs to give each time instructions. So actually it is a tedious job. It is a complex one, right? For each and every task, the user needs to communicate directly with the hardware. He needs to write commands. He needs to write instructions. So that is not possible with all the cases. So for that sake, we introduce an operating system. This operating system takes care of everything. So whatever I said, just loading the application to the memory and processing it, saving it, closing it, all sort of things, instead of user, for the sake of user, this operating system takes care of everything. Okay, so that is the use of this operating system. So now just read the definition. It manages the computer hardware. Okay. So our operating system manages the computer hardware. So instead of user directly interacts, communicate with the hardware, since it is a tedious, complex task, intermediately we have an operating system. We have a software that handles everything, loading, processing, storing, closing, all sort of things. It cares of everything. Our next point is it acts as an interface between the user and the hardware. Okay, so just see, it is uh, between where user and the computer hardware, between your operating system is placed. So it for communicating with the computer hardware, user requires an operating system to make this process simpler. Instead of directly contacting, communicating with the hardware directly, with the help of an operating system, we are doing everything. So it does everything for us. Okay, so this is the simplest definition of an operating system. So with this diagram, we understood the concept of operating system, how it acts as an intermediary between the user and the hardware. So rest will be continued in the next session.